Anytime I saw the commercial for this movie on TV, there were always two things that ran through my head. One, out of all the Stephen King books, why did we have to remake Firestarter? And two, why the hell is Zac Efron in this movie? Well, I guess we got our answer. Firestarter. Hey guys, it's your guy in the chair here, and this is my review for Firestarter, directed by Keith Thomas and stars Zac Efron, Ryan Kiera Strong, Sidney Lemon, and Michael Greyes. His name is like spelled like Gray, yes, or however you say it. So Michael Gray, yes. That's his name. I'm just gonna say that's his name. All right. So the plot for this movie is really pretty simple. Essentially, it's Zac Efron and Sidney Lemon's playing the parents of the supernatural kid who can start fires by screaming at the top of her lungs, and the government, the same government, officials who tested on the parents, they want the kid now, and the parents have to do their best to protect this kid. Listen, this isn't really the most like complicated Stephen King book plot that he has out of his whole collection or his whole resume of work. Firestarter for me was always a movie where, or essentially, Firestarter for me was always a concept where I never, now before I even get into all this, I never saw the original Firestarter, nor have I ever read the book, because to me, Firestarter never made sense as a horror movie. Like for Stephen King, he has a really like a lot of messed up, stories and different like books and things like that. And Firestarter for me never really made sense as a horror movie. Granted, I can understand how having powers like that is scary, but for me, I just never really understood, why why this had to be made with such a horrific tone that, Stephen King creates. Because it's like, I don't really see how you can make that into a movie. But they tried. Granted, like I said, I've never seen the original, but they definitely tried in this one. And to be honest, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. But that's because I walked in thinking this was going to be the worst movie of 2022. And honestly, if you walk in with that low of expectations, it's hard for a movie to either like beat that or do anything to make that better. So the movie for me really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but like I said, I walked in with very low expectations. But I mean, honestly, there was some stuff I liked about it, and we're going to get into that. So one thing I liked about the movie is, well, I like the fact that it was an hour and 34 minutes. Look, they kept it short. They knew there wasn't really much to work with here. They're not creating the Da Vinci Code or some complicated Shutter Island-esque plot that they have to carry out for 2 hours and however many minutes. No, they keep it pretty short because there's not much to work with here, and it's pretty straight to the point. Now, I will say, even with that, with the movie being an hour and 34 minutes, once it gets to the point where, essentially it's run out of new things to put in the movie to make it feel fresh and, not feel like, a copy, a copy and paste remake. Once they run out of, new stuff to fill that hole, the movie doesn't really have much to do, and it kind of just drags on after that. It really doesn't have anywhere to end either. But like I said, I'm going to talk about what I liked about the movie. So I just look, I like the fact that it was short. It made me feel good that I didn't have to sit through the longest unnecessary movie ever, because that's definitely what this could have been if it went any longer than it did. Another thing I liked about the movie, or essentially another thing that, essentially didn't necessarily disappoint me as I thought it would, was the performances of Zac Efron and Ryan Kiera Armstrong. She did a very good job, actually, in this movie. So did Zac Efron. Granted, I didn't know why Zac Efron was in this movie, and I really think that's the selling point of this movie, because none of the other characters outside of Zac Efron and, Ryan Kiera Armstrong, none of the other characters are really trying in this movie to really create anything special or original. Kurtwood Smith is in this movie. I believe that's his name, Red from That 70s Show. He's in this movie, and he played the scientist from before in the original, but essentially he's in this movie, and honestly that's just clickbait, or that's just a way to get you into the theater, because he's not in it very long. He's only in one scene. Like I said, Zac Efron and the young girl, they're the only two really trying to create anything special in this movie. There's the female agent who runs the corporation. She stinks. She's one of the worst actresses I've ever seen in my life. Her dialogue is absolutely terrible. The budget for this movie must have been like $400, because first of all, like, they shot it, and I know I'm supposed to be talking about what I liked here, but It's literally the fact that the movie was short and that Zac Efron and the young girl did a pretty good job. I'm actually going to give them their flowers. They actually didn't do bad. Other than that, this movie is an absolute train wreck. You can tell that they've only put their actual faith in like different in like parts of the movie. The young girl and Zac Efron. Other than that, they didn't really care where this movie went. They didn't necessarily think that this concept was interesting enough to do anything different. Like I said, granted, this is a Stephen. It's supposed to be like a Stephen King. This is a Stephen King remake, a Stephen King movie, and that is honestly a big part of why I think this movie is bad. Is just because this concept doesn't need Stephen King behind it. Granted, I know this is his work. I know this is his original, it's not I don't know if it's a masterpiece, but his original work, and I just don't think that this movie needs a Stephen King element to it. Like I said, I can understand how having powers like this is very scary for a person, or how it's like hard to control something like that, because you can literally set anything on fire. But it's like, this story has been told to me 1,000 times with other different powers in many different ways, and it's just like, at this point, coming out with something like this is just very not interesting. It's not. It's pointless. The movie really feels pointless at times. It just doesn't really feel like it needs to be made. We could have did anything else. You honestly, what they could have did with this concept is taken it and just called it anything else. If they wanted to add horrific elements to the movie, they could have did that. But it really could have just been called anything else. I don't. Like I said, I guess because the whole Stephen King thing, it has to be called Firestarter. I just really don't think that really helped this movie in any sort of way. I don't think this is necessary. Like, this is just isn't Stephen King has done much creepier things, and he just has a lot. I feel like he has a lot better material for you to make a movie out of. You could have just called this anything else but that. But I guess just due to the fact that you needed a remake to come out on, or you needed some sort of horror movie to come out on Friday the 13th, you ended up doing Firestarter. So I guess that's just what we got. Another reason why I really felt like the Stephen Kingness of this movie just didn't really need to be a part of this movie was, and honestly, I know that sounds kind of weird because this is Stephen King's Firestarter, but look, I just don't understand why something with this sort of plot needs Stephen King a part of it, or why Stephen King even wrote it. I was always confused about why this was a thing in the first place, and the movie honestly just furthers my confusion of why this is a thing. Because look, I understand that you have to make a Stephen King, setting with the movie. But it's like, why does it have to be so dark and depressing? These people live in one of the most depressing towns I've ever seen. There's no lights in this school at all. Like, the school literally uses the outside light to light the rooms because nobody's turning any lights on. These people live out in the middle of nowhere. They can't have Wi-Fi. Granted, they do have reasons for that because they can't be tracked and because they don't want the people to find them. But I'm just like, just because this has to be a Stephen King movie doesn't mean you have to make it the most depressing setting ever. Like, it just doesn't have to be so, like, it's because it's unnecessary. It's like, why is she living in such a depressing state, a depressing house? Oh, because Stephen King made this movie? Like, it's just like, that never made sense to me. It furthers my confusion. I just don't understand at all why that has to be a thing. I just don't understand why, we have to the Stephen King parts of this movie just felt forced. There's parts in this movie where they have to they have to change the score. In some scenes, it's like the score is making you think like one emotion is happening. Then they have to change it completely to match the creepy tone of what Stephen King would have. Because they just have to make sure that they remind you this is a Stephen King project. So they have to do everything that Stephen King would do in a movie. It's ridiculous, guys. I just don't understand why. I just don't understand why. I just don't understand why. So overall, guys, look, Firestarter is a very forgettable movie. It's not really anything that's, gonna make you want to go to the theater or make you, shake in your boots. It's not very scary. It's a very basic, generic remake of a movie. Zac Efron and the young girl Ryan Kiera Armstrong, she does a pretty good job. They do a pretty good job of making the movie very watchable for you, but other than that, all the side characters stink. Well, except for Michael Greyes. I mean, granted, or Greyes, yes, whatever his name is. They didn't really give him many lines, so, I mean, I guess it's not, I guess that's a good thing in his case, because, I mean, he didn't really give me much of a reason to hate on him, but he didn't really give me much of a reason to think he was watchable in the movie either, but it is what it is at this point. Look, the movie's very forgettable. It's not memorable at all. It's very pointless. Any other Stephen King project could have been made for this. Granted, I hope that, this one is just buried and thrown away forever. I hope they never revisit this. I hope this movie never has any other remakes, sequels, anything else related to Firestarter, please just kill it, because you literally have any other superhero movie that can be made for this sort of thing. So that's what this movie is. And for all those reasons and more, guys, I'm going to give Firestarter a 2 out of 5 stars. All right, guys, so Firestarter, have you seen it? What did you think about it? If you haven't seen it yet, don't go watch it. Do anything else with your weekend, honestly. I mean, unless you're curious, as like I was, to find out why Zac Efron was in this movie, you're more than welcome to go find that answer out for yourself. Hopefully I gave you the answer in my review, but like I said, it's really just to make the movie as watchable as possible, because the rest of it is a dumpster fire, literally. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching my video. Please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Comment down below. Just let's get a conversation going with whatever movie topic you guys want to talk about. What do you guys want to see from me next? Guys, thank you so much. This is your guy in the chair. More content coming to you soon.